In the year 2024, I watched 20 different movies and I'm gonna be ranking all those movies from worst to best in this video. There's a lot to get into, so let's just get straight into it. And make sure you guys like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that noti bell because I'm going crazy all 2025 and y'all don't wanna miss a video. In 20th, last place position for worst movie I've seen in the entire year of 2024 has to be Madam Web, and I know this does not come to a surprise to anybody. Madam Web is not just the worst movie that I've seen in 2024. Madam Web was more than likely the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't understand how this got into theaters. It genuinely baffles me. This movie was not done, and frankly, it probably shouldn't have been started. The plot was super broken. The script was extra cringy. The dubbing was horrible. Like half of that Spider-Man guy scenes, half of the words he was saying was not matching up with his mouth. It was ridiculous. And he sounded crazy. His scenes would literally be like, I have to go find those spider girls. It literally didn't make any sense. And the part about this movie that pissed me off more than anything else was this entire movie, the spider dude kept having visions of the future of when he got killed by these three super spider girls. So the entire movie, I'm waiting on them to have their whatever moment where they get their suits and they get their powers and blah, blah, blah. It just never happened. He didn't die to three super spider girls. It was the dumbest shit ever. Like, why foreshadow this for the entire movie if we're not gonna get it? Like, the entire movie, I'm like, all right, this is absolutely ass, but maybe the ending will save it, maybe. And it just didn't. It was terrible. This was worse than Morbius. Please don't waste your money and go see this movie. It's not even funny bad. It's just bad. Don't see it. In the 19th place position, this movie got here not because it was horrible, but just because I'm tired of this franchise pissing me off. It's the Demon Slayer Hashira training movie. I am fucking sick of these Demon Slayer movie cash grabs. It's one thing to put these movies in theaters, blah, 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 whatever, but to literally just take 3 episodes, put them all together in Premiere Pro, charge people and put it on the big screen is ridiculous. At least with the Solo Leveling movie, they literally cut up the episodes in order to make it a shortened version and more cohesive, fast-paced recap of the first season. The Demon Slayer movie is literally opening, episode, end credits. Opening, episode, end credit. Like, they didn't even crop it or cut it or anything. It's just a cash grab. And on top of that, while the Hashira training arc wasn't bad or anything, it wasn't really good enough to give us a movie of the first episode. Not that much stuff really happened in the first episode. The Wind and Snake Hashira both jumped into the castle and that part was cool, but after that, it was just them kind of talking and recapping what happened in the last season because it was just the first episode of the new season. It really pissed me off. This had to go in the 19th place position. I can't believe they finessed more people's money again. In the 18th place position, we have Joker Du Folie. I don't know how to pronounce this shit.
Preview.
Folie à deux? Maybe? I don't know how to pronounce it. It's something in French and I don't speak French. This is a really tricky movie to rate because it didn't have to be bad. A lot of people feel as though this movie was destined to be bad the moment they decided it was going to be a musical. And I kind of thought that too. But once you're in the movie and you're watching it, the first musical act, you realize this actually does work kind of well thematically because he is crazy and music kind of has always been a part of his character, so it works if they would have executed it properly. See, the problem wasn't that it was a musical itself. The problem was that it was too much music and the musical acts didn't push the plot forward. What makes a musical a good musical is that the musical numbers are supposed to drive the plot and push the plot. If you take Wicked or Lion King or any other musical, right? All those musical numbers are important to the story. If you were to remove the songs from Lion King, that movie just wouldn't make any sense anymore. Imagine watching Lion King without Hakuna Matata or Can You Feel the Love Tonight or whatever. It just would feel broken and wouldn't make any sense. But Joker, if you took all the musical numbers out, the movie would play nearly the same. It might even be better. And because there was so much music that wasn't pushing the story, by the end of that movie, I was literally begging for it to end. I couldn't handle it. I leaned over to my girlfriend and was like, oh my God, When is this shit ending? I can't take it. In the 17th place position, we have Venom: The Last Dance. I will preface this by saying I saw the first movie, but I did not see Venom: Let There Be Carnage. I just went and saw Last Dance because I was offered an early screening for free. So I was like, hey, why not go and have some fun? And you know what? I did end up having a lot of fun. Yes, this movie is very low on the list, but that does not mean it's a bad movie. The other ones were just better. And honestly, I would say I probably liked this movie more than a lot of people. A lot of people thought this movie was absolute garbage, just like they thought the second movie was garbage. Well, I didn't see the second one, and I liked this one. I will say it started off a little boring, but by that third act, the action was great. I love the action scene with all the other Venoms, and I love seeing the very end and seeing why it was called The Last Dance and getting the emotional moments and the funny moments. It was all over the place. It was crazy, but that's kind of what these Venom movies are supposed to be. So I think it did a very good job in this Venom trilogy, but overall as a movie, it was just okay. In the 16th place position, we have Kung Fu Panda 4. This movie was so disappointing because the Kung Fu Panda trilogy is a nearly perfect trilogy. You almost can't find anything wrong with those three movies. The villains, the action, the story, everything about it is perfect. It's almost as good as How to Train Your Dragon. Some people would say it's better, but I highly disagree with it. And after getting three masterpieces, this fourth movie just felt like a cash grab. Viola Davis might be my favorite actress of all time, and I think she did do a pretty good job as Chameleon, but I feel like they wasted her as a throwaway villain. If they would have actually put some time and some love into this movie, this shit could have been really good. But the plot was rushed, the Furious 5 weren't in it, the comedy was kind of subpar, everything felt watered down, and on top of all that, Awkwafina was in it. So there's that. In 15th place for best movies of 2024, we have Moana II. You can make the argument that the first Moana is the best of the Disney animation movies. This movie was not that at all. I've heard that this movie was originally supposed to be a Disney Plus series, but they ended up just putting all of it together and putting it out as a movie. So that kind of explains the brokenness of the plot. And honestly, if this would have came out as a series, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more because it would have felt more cohesive as individual episodes instead of one full big project. And what really bothers me about this movie is it did super great in the box office. It broke almost every animated record that there is, which really bothers me because this movie is subpar, and the reason why it got all that was off the back of the first movie, but this movie is mediocre. So hopefully this movie doing well because of its predecessor doesn't incentivize people to put out more mediocrity just because the first one was good. And granted, that's what's been happening in Hollywood anyway, but I hope that we can find a way to put that shit to a stop. In the 14th place position, I feel like you guys are gonna kill me for putting this movie this high, but it's RedOne. People hate this movie, probably because The Rock is in it and people hate The Rock. But here's my problem with everybody hating on this movie. Everyone gets so mad that Hollywood just keeps giving us sequels and remakes and whatever instead of coming up with original IP. But when they finally come out with some shit that isn't original IP like RedOne, everyone shits on it and doesn't let it get its moment to breathe. Was it the greatest movie ever? No, but it was exactly what it was supposed to be. It was a family-friendly, fun Christmas movie for the whole family. If I would have watched this movie when I was 8, it might have been one of my favorite movies ever. It honestly reminded me of like a Spy Kids movie. Now, objectively and technically, are Spy Kids good movies? No, of course not. But as a kid, are they fucking awesome? Yes, and that's what RedOne was. It was Christmas and awesome combined. So the fact that everybody was so quick to hate on it, I don't know, it really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I liked it. I didn't love it, but it was good enough. In the 13th place position, I got Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, I will be honest, when I found out that this movie was coming out, my expectations were extremely low because Logan was the perfect ending for Wolverine, and I felt like anything that this movie would do would squander that memory. And in a way, it kind of did, but I like how they made fun of how that's what they were trying to do. This movie was very funny, and I had a lot of fucking fun in the theater, especially on my first watch. Not to mention getting all the cameos and the craziness and those slapstick humor. It all worked very well. I saw this movie in theaters twice, and the second time I watched it, it wasn't as good as the first time because a lot of that movie does rely on shock value and things of the sort, but I will say it was a really good movie, and I wish I could have put it higher, but honestly, everything above it is just better. And if Deadpool and Wolverine is the 13th best movie on this list, then that means this was a good year for movies. In the 12th place position, we got Godzilla X Kong. If you've watched this movie, you know that this movie was less Godzilla X Kong and more Kong X kinda Godzilla. Godzilla was really a secondary character in this movie, which was perfectly fine for me because I'm a Kong fan anyway. When I watched Godzilla vs. Kong, I was rooting for Kong the whole way through. Now, this is a giant monster movie, and in a giant monster movie, I want to see giant monsters, but there was a lot of human aspect in it, which obviously they have to put in to kind of drive the plot forward. And thankfully, my boy Brian Tyree Henry was in this movie. He's probably my favorite actor of all time. I think he did an incredible job, just like he does in every other movie, especially ones that are higher up on this list. Skull King was an awesome villain. Seeing Godzilla getting his emo bag, seeing Kong get his infinity gauntlet, watching giant monsters fight each other is gonna be a 10 out of 10 every single time. I love this movie. I'm not saying the movie was a 10 out of 10. I'm just saying watching them fight is always gonna be awesome. Next up in the 11th place position, we have Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. I do want to preface this by saying this was the first Mad Max movie I've ever seen. I've never seen any of the Mad Max projects before this. If you're asking me, Malcolm, why would you go see this movie when you hadn't seen any of the other ones? Once again, I got invited to an early screening, so it was free and fun. So I was like, hey, why not? Let's go see it. And it was cool because it's a prequel, so I didn't even need to see the other ones. And without seeing the other ones, I love this. I felt like it gave me everything I needed to know. There were no points where I felt like I was missing anything or I was confused. Frankly, it's a prequel, so I didn't expect to have that feeling anyway. Chris Hemsworth absolutely stole the show. That man was evil, he was chaotic, he was charismatic, and the juxtaposition worked so well because he was so charismatic that I was like, damn, I love this guy, but he was very obviously a terrible person and a fucking menace, and it worked perfectly. If you haven't seen any of the other Mad Maxes, this is a cool place to start, I would say. I mean, shit, y'all let me know if I'm wrong. Maybe it's a terrible place to start. I wouldn't know. This is the only one I've seen. We are now entering the top 10 movies of 2024, and I will say every single one of these movies bangs. I loved every one of them. I'm super glad I saw them, and honestly, a lot of them I saw more than once. Let's get into it. In the 10th place position, we have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I love the original trilogy. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite trilogies of all time. So maybe there is a little bit of bias in this, but I like that this movie still kind of encapsulated the feeling of those movies, even though it's hundreds and hundreds of years in the future. I thought the new main character, Noah, that they introduced was really cool. I liked how he was even-tempered and calm and didn't really turn up that much. Honestly, I still like Caesar more, but Noah is cool, and I like that they didn't just try to recreate Caesar. Well, technically they did try to recreate Caesar because the other character named Caesar was lit. He was evil, he was chaotic, and he was charismatic. Once again, it was hard to hate this man. Well, technically he's not a man, but y'all know what I fucking mean. Bro was an absolute menace, but he was so charming while he was doing it that you kind of wanted to rock with him a little bit. I loved it. I love this movie. And I don't know if this is true, but I hear that this new series that they're doing is supposed to have 9 different movies. That is a long time, but I'm hoping that's because we're gonna get a really deep, really big fleshed out verse of the movies. In the 9th place position, we have Inside Out 2. I thought that this movie was a really cool and fun movie. I like that unlike the first movie, we got to see more of the emotions because y'all know the first movie was mainly just joy and sadness and a little bit of bing bong. Rest in peace, that's my boy. But this movie was cool because we got to see a little bit of everybody. We got some joy, we got some sadness, we got some anger, we got some disgust, some fear, a little bit of anxiety, some of the whatever boredom. Well, I don't remember. Enfui? Whatever it was, y'all know I don't know fucking French. But yeah, I thought this movie was cool. I liked it. Was it better than Inside Out 1? I'm gonna say no. Even though a lot of people say yes, it didn't hit me the same way the first one did. And I know a lot of people struggle with anxiety heavy, and I'm not gonna say I struggle with it as much as other people do. I think I experience sadness more than anxiety. So I think that's kind of what kept me from feeling like it was better. I will say this. Riley gotta tap into anxiety more when she playing hockey because anxiety had her playing like a demon.
My big bounce got a big bounce in this bitch. My big talker, I have my big body.
In the 8th place position, I have Mufasa. Is there some bias in this? Probably some recency bias because I just saw it last week, and also some bias because The Lion King is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's incredible. I think it's one of the best pieces of art that we have. It's so good. And I'm talking about the 2D one, not the 3D one. I thought that shit was ass. And I will say there were a lot of things that I didn't like about Mufasa. I wish it was 2D animated. I wish the songs were better, but the story was so good that I really did get immersed and enjoyed it a lot. Mufasa is one of my favorite characters ever. So I really like seeing his backstory and how he became who he is today. And then on top of that, my entire life, and when I say my entire life, I mean it. My whole life, I've been wondering how Scar ended up that way. How did he get his scar? And we finally got the answer. And frankly, I feel him. I get it. If I was Scar, I would be mad too. If I was supposed to be king, I picked up this orphan, bro ended up being king and taking my girl. I would be pissed. I get it. Now, would I have done what Scar did? Probably not. But I get it. I feel him. I understand why Scar was evil now. And I get why he snaked Mufasa for the throne at the end. I get it. Also, I hate live action Timon and Pumbaa. I never want to see them again. In the 7th place position, we have Gladiator II. Now, I want to preface this just like the other ones. I didn't see the first Gladiator. And if you're wondering, Malcolm, why did you go see Gladiator 2 even though you hadn't seen the first Gladiator? Well, I got invited to it. No, I'm kidding. I didn't get invited to an early screening on this one. I had already seen Wicked a bunch of times, and my girlfriend went to go see Wicked again, and I didn't want to see it another time, so I went and saw Gladiator 2 instead. And you know what? I'm glad I did. I loved it. Denzel stole the show. Now, I know Denzel is one of the best actors of our time, but I had forgot that until I saw him in this movie, and I was like, yo, this dude is fucking awesome. Also, a lot of times when movies use excessive gore, it normally gets kind of annoying and gross, but I felt like it was very tasteful and even added suspense in this movie. I think they did a really good job with that. They killed that. But overall, the movie was super emotional. It was super triumphant. I liked it a lot. It was awesome. And if you haven't seen it, I would recommend go seeing it, even if you haven't seen the first Gladiator. In the 6th place position, just outside the top 5, we have Dune 2. I see Dune 2 get a lot of mixed reviews. Some people think it's an absolute masterpiece, and some people think it's garbage, confusing, and boring. I liked it a lot. I thought it was cool. However, I have a friend, shout out my boy Noah. He read all the Dune books and knows a lot of shit about Dune. So he gave me a lot of like background knowledge and intricacies that I probably wouldn't have enjoyed the movie as much if I didn't have that. So to the people who say that the movie is confusing or boring, I definitely get it. I just happen to have somebody who could give me background knowledge to help me enjoy it more. But yo, that boy Paul Atreides is that guy, plain and simple. I thought he was fucking awesome. Zendaya was a little whiny in the movie, but I kind of get it. Like, her man kind of finessed her in a way, so I get it, but she was a little annoying to me. In the 5th place position for best movies of 2024, we have Blue Lock episode Nagi. Now, I'ma love seeing an anime movie in the theater every single time because anime on the big screen is always gonna slap. And this movie fucking slapped. I really like getting the opportunity to kind of see how the first selection of Blue Lock played out from Nagi's perspective. It was really dope seeing how Team V went through it. And in the show, when Nagi chose Isagi, I kind of felt bad for Rayo, but I did think Rayo was kind of doing the most. Seeing it from this perspective, I gotta say, Nagi really did do Rayo filthy, because to make Rayo promise he would never leave him, and then Nagi switch up and leave him, that shit is crazy and treacherous, and I get why Rayo felt the way he did. Now, do I get why Nagi did it? Do I think it was a good reasoning for the better? I do. I think it was a good choice to do what he did, but boy, did it feel fucking wrong at the time. And the movie looked incredible, but honestly, if I could have not gotten the movie, but taken all that time and budget and gave it to the second season of Blue Lock, I would have, because the second season did not look good outside of that finale. The movie was awesome, but I could have did without it if y'all would have given us that level of animation in the TV show. In the fourth place position, we got another anime movie. It's the Highq dumpster battle. Now, if you're a true Highq fan, you've been waiting on this battle for years. And would I've loved to see it play out in an actual full season? Yes, but the movie gave me everything I wanted. It felt and it reminded me everything that I love about Highq. It had the suspense, it had the action, it had the lovable characters, it had the emotion. Everything we love from the show was in this movie. And the sound design in that movie theater was absolutely crazy. Getting the surround sound of seeing that Highq, oh my God, that shit was so good, bro. Like, I wish I could go see it in the theater again. And that first person perspective scene from Kenma at the end of the movie is debatably the greatest scene I've seen in all of anime. The way that I felt like I was in the game, and I felt the level of desperation and excitement and exhaustion coming from him from the first person was insane. It was incredible, and I cannot believe they did that. I've never seen anything like it. Time to get into the top 3 best movies of 2024, in my opinion. Let's get it. In the third place position, we have Transformers 1. After seeing this movie, it made me think, why the hell hasn't Transformers always been an animated movie series? This was the best way to experience that franchise. Seeing how Optimus Prime became Optimus Prime, seeing how Megatron became Megatron, the way they used to be friends and turned into enemies, this shit was perfect. Watching Sentinel do his Sentinel thing, if you know Sentinel, you know. Chris Hemsworth did a much better job as Optimus than I expected him to. Brian Tyree Henry did a fantastic job as Megatron, but once again, Brian Tyree Henry always does a fantastic job anytime he plays a character. He's my favorite actor of all time. That man is the GOAT. I think making this movie a fully animated movie and not having any humans in it was the best decision they ever made. And I really, really hope we get a Transformers 2 War for Cybertron, because I want to see how the battle between Megatron and Optimus plays out and how they end up destroying the world and they have to come down to Earth. I need to see it. I pray that they make this movie. In the second place position for best movies of 2024, I have Wicked Part 1. Before I saw this movie, I had never seen the play Wicked before. I've never even seen The Wizard of Oz before. Now, I have seen The Wiz, which is basically just The Wizard of Oz, but with black people. And I've also seen The Wizard of Oz played out like in a bunch of different media. Like every TV show kind of has a Wizard of Oz episode in some way or another. So I know the plot of the movie, but I had no idea what was going to happen in Wicked. This was all fresh to me. My girlfriend's seen the play a couple different times and she really liked it. And she's one of the biggest Ariana Grande fans of all time. So of course I went to go see it with her. And my expectations were decent, but this movie definitely blew my expectations away. This movie was absolutely incredible and I loved it. I loved the story, the world, the characters, the emotion, the CGI, everything about this movie was perfect. And of course, the songs were hitting. Cynthia Erivo was singing her fucking ass off, especially on Defying Gravity. That shit was incredible. When I tell you I have not stopped singing the Wicked soundtrack since I saw that movie, and I saw that movie over a month ago at the time of recording, literally, and I'm not lying, before I recorded this video, I was singing Wicked earlier this morning, and that's just because I always sing it. I'm singing it every fucking day. Defying Gravity it might be the best original song to come out in 2024. Like, that shit is flames. And I've made a lot of inferences and predictions for part 2, so I cannot wait for the second part to come out to see if I'm right and if the stuff that I came up with came true. I am so hyped. This movie was so good, and I'm hoping that this second half of songs hit as hard as the first ones, because I've been singing Defying Gravity, and I'm gonna keep singing Defying Gravity. This shit was flames. In the first place position for best movie of 2024, I have The Wild Robot. This movie had no business being this good. When I went into it, obviously I expected a good movie because it's DreamWorks, right? Before I saw the movie, I watched the trailer and things like that, and it looked like DreamWorks WALL-E to me, which kind of did raise my expectations up, because in my opinion, DreamWorks does it better than Pixar every single time. So I was already excited, but I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I thought it was gonna be silly and goofy or whatever. No. This movie, it does have silly and goofy and comedy and all that, but this shit is deep and intense. I did not expect to cry in that movie theater. Like, come on, man, what the fuck going on? That shit shouldn't have been slapping that hard. The emotions were crazy high, the action was crazy, the suspense was crazy, the voice acting was crazy. Everything you needed from a movie, Wild Robot gave it to you. Honestly, I don't even think it's close for best movie. Wicked is kinda close, but Wild Robot just really did step it up a notch. I didn't realize this when I was making the list for this movie, but I just went and looked at it right now. It's an original IP. Outside of RedOne, Wild Robot is the only other original IP movie that I've seen this year. Every other movie on here is either a remake or a sequel or whatever. This is the first time the Wild Robot has ever been on the big screen or anything of the sort, and this shit was fantastic. It was awesome. I loved it. But that's the list. Let me know if you guys agree, disagree, how you feel about it, and let me know what other movies I didn't watch this year that I need to go ahead and get into before I start watching these new movies in 2025. If you haven't done so already, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that noti bell, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.